What up, guys? This is DJ Talks, and we're gonna do another off-the-cuff episode. We're just gonna talk a little bit about our experience in college. Um, there's no real inspiration for this topic. We just felt like talking about it. So, if you're tuning in, thanks for watching. We know that this will be the second off-the-cuff episode that we've done in a row, but that is because Dan and I are doing a little more research for another in-depth topic for next week's episode. So again, if you love this episode, subscribe. If you hate it, tell us why and then leave or whatever it is you want to do. But no matter what it is, thanks for stopping by. So I'm Johnny, and to the right
I'm
is Dan.
Dan. Remember Dan? Always remember Dan.
Yeah, don't
Thanks
forget him.
for coming on. So today we're gonna kind of stick it out here. Um, Randomly thought about this, but we're gonna be talking about kind of college. We liked, we didn't like, regrets, things we did, things we recommend. Obviously, we went through college, so um, you're getting kind of our take or our opinion, the whole experience itself. So we're just gonna go right into it. So I guess my initial question for you is what I mean, you went to U of I, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, same as me, same university. What made you decide to go to that school?
It was just the best option for me that got me away from home but was affordable. I got into other schools out of state, but I didn't really find it financially feasible. And I felt that at the time, I thought that 2.5 hours was a comfortable distance that was away from home, but still close enough for me to go back. Um, I'm also really, really close to my high school friends, and it was close enough to where they'd be willing to travel to see me, and I was willing to go back to Chicago every now and then and hang out with them. So honestly, that was the biggest reason why I chose U of I. I didn't really have a reason like, oh, I wanted to go into like whatever program they had, or I heard about like whatever fraternity or registered student organization, also known as like an RSO. There was no group or whatever motivating reason for me to go. It was just big campus, away from home. That was it. That was honestly it.
Sounds good. I mean, that's a good reason, anyways. For me, it was just one of the few schools I applied to. Good engineering option for me. Very good school in general, and honestly, I that was pretty much it as well. I didn't really have a huge or really interesting choice in colleges. I was just most obvious answer at least.
I think a lot of people felt that way. A lot of my friends who went there, they kind of just felt that it was a good reason to get away from home.
Yeah,
Wasn't terribly far, but it was their first time living on their own. Like a couple close friends of mine, they felt the same way. That they just it was the first time getting away from home, and they live pretty. I mean, their lives weren't terribly sheltered per se, but they were very restricted by their parents. I mean, they were girls, so it's harder for them to go out, especially in Chicago with or you hear about violence and crime and stuff. So then
makes
when they got
sense.
to Champaign, they were able to live freely and 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 experience things on their own.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And when you initially, I mean, where did you initially live first year?
I lived at a dorm called Illinois Street Residence Hall.
All right, so ISR,
So
yes.
ISR,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Same with me. And for your experience in general, what was it like in the beginning?
Dude, my freshman year was bomb as hell. I was like super, super stress free. I spent a lot of time with my friends. I developed really good relationships with people
Hmm?
that lived on my floor, and then I also got really close to friends from high school that I wasn't as close to before. with the exception of Helen, who I was already really close with. I'm pretty sure that that freshman year and then onward, we just got like even closer. But my freshman year, I lived on the first floor, and it was a floor where everyone was like super cool with each other. No one really had any beef with each other. No one really disliked each other. And you would walk into the hallway, and almost all the doors would be open. People would be hanging out. People would be playing video games. People would be doing homework together. It was really chill. Um, it was really nice. And I remember going to other floors and other dorms, in my dorm and other dorms on campus, and not seeing that at all. I was also really lucky to have a residential advisor. I think that's what they call an
Mhm.
RA on the floor, who was like super chill with it. He was like, after a certain time you might want to keep it down because of noise upstairs and
Right.
whatever, but it was still pretty good.
Who was your
Um,
RA?
his name was Rosh.
And I don't remember. Oh,
Raj
but all
Kapoor.
right.
Yeah, he
Right.
was a cool dude. Really cool
All
dude.
right.
Um, but my dorm room eventually became set up so we could fit like 5 or 6 people in there at once, and they would
Yeah.
like sometimes sleep with us because I just had like a really tight knit close group, and we would like dish class together. We played League together. We played a lot of League of Legends together. We would go eat together. We would go to like different events together. It
Hmm.
was it was awesome. I loved it.
I remember. I remember the place. You had things set up where it was like bunk bed, or not bunk bed, like the
We had our
bed was
beds
lifted.
lofted,
Lofted.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's what it
this,
was.
but under instead of a desk like or yeah, instead of like another bed down here like what you see on my camera, this was another desk area. So then like I would sleep on the top bunk, and under would be a desk, and then I had a futon in my room
Hmm.
for my friends to come sleep in, and then we had like tons of sheets on the floors that people could chill on, and we always kept them pretty clean for the most part.
It was an
I don't,
orgy.
yeah.
What? What?
Nah, dude, it wasn't
I'm
that,
kidding.
that
I'm
bad. That's gross, man. Uh, but yeah,
All right.
no, it was really nice.
Do you consider yourself lucky then that you actually got that experience or got
Absolutely.
the full
I'm so
floor?
lucky.
Okay.
Um, especially just because it just felt like I was in the right place at the right time to
Mhm.
have met those people and then to have created that little group. Um, I think most of my friends, a lot of my high school friends, they ended up going to a local university called University of Illinois at Chicago, which is U of I's sister school, but it was in the city, and a lot of them didn't want to pay for dorms. So, at U of I on campus, I think it's required for you to stay in a dorm your first year. Um, but at UIC, since it's a more city landscape and experience, you didn't have to do that. But the reason I point that out is because they didn't even get that like on college, away from home campus feel, that
Yeah.
wholesome university 4 year college feel.
Hmm.
So not only did I get that, but then I also got really lucky to have had like a really comfortable, really chill freshman year where I had a group of people that I was like, really close with. I did all this fun stuff with. I was definitely really lucky to have been in that position.
Yeah. Um, for me at least, I feel like my freshman year, I had two sides to it. Now, you and I both were in an organization called the Asian American Association. Okay? I believe you joined in your freshman year as well.
I
Right?
did,
You
yeah.
didn't do too much freshman year, but you joined freshman year. I had a couple of things here or there.
Hmm.
For the most part, I mean, you came along to most things as well. Um, for me, I had half and half. All right. So the first half or first semester, I mean, I joined Asian American Association or AAA, and for me at least, I almost separated the two semesters. The first semester, I mostly stuck with people that I met in my dorm or people that I met, around the dorm itself in the
Hmm.
lounges and all the computer labs, everything. Like that.
Yeah.
Whereas my second semester, I kind of gravitated more towards AAA as the year went on. Now, I, and one thing that I fully regret, and this is a little early as well, but one thing that I fully regret from my 4 years in college is the full fact that I got too integrated into Asia, AAA to the point where I lost touch with a lot of the friends that I made throughout the beginning half of my first year, and only now or only recently did I actually start catching up with some of the people there. So that's something that I actually fully. But yeah, first year definitely dorms. I wasn't as lucky as you, or at least I wasn't maybe as good at you as, or something similar to that. But I wasn't as good at kind of sticking with the group of people that I met on the floor. But in general, I kind of branched out into lounges, I think, or classmates or people that lived near me, and went from there. So there was a room called the NPR Room 1, which was basically this multi-purpose room. There was a pool table, a ping pong table, TV down there, and a piano there. That was where I pretty much met most of my friends in the beginning.
Mm.
And I mean, that's a great way, especially for people who are in college or trying or starting college or whatever it is. Um, once you actually get to the dorm, kind of during the evening or afternoon or whenever you have time, kind of go to any of the lounges, go study
And
with
just
people
chill.
or chill
Yeah.
or bring your laptop, find something you enjoy in the lounge. Every dorm room itself probably has some type of recreation room, pool table, ping pong, or something big that you can do with people, and you'll meet a lot of different people there specifically. I mean, that's something that's nice as well. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, progressing through along, like I was saying, we both joined an organization called Asian American Association. What are your thoughts on that? What initially led you to join this organization? Did you take a look at any other organization? There's a lot of questions there, but kind of what's the story behind just organization?
This is actually a really loaded topic for me because it's very controversial in a sense that there were a lot of good things that happened, there were a lot of bad things that happened, and I learned from all of it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that all of them were good learning experiences. So, and that's not to say that all of the better learning experiences were all like things going well either. There were plenty of mistakes that I made that were bad experiences, but really good to learn from. So, all in all, I think that joining AAA was the right decision for me. 100%. I I
Definitely.
learned a lot about who I was as a person. I learned a lot about my limits as a leader, and I also learned a lot about my characteristics in and my personality in different environments. But when I joined, I saw AAA as this an amazing organization that like could do no wrong. Um, I came from an Asian club in high school where I was the president of like I think there were I don't know. I want to say it was at least 2 to 300 members. Because in my high school, we also had a seventh and eighth grade program, and we had members and performers in the club that were from those grades too, and they were spread all through high school. So it was a really big club, and in high school, I was like super arrogant. I was super confident. I was like on top of the world, man. I just felt like super cool. I had a friend group that like I loved all of them. They loved me. I had a girlfriend. I was uh I was feeling really good with my the way I ran the Asian club. The best thing about it was that I had a vision for what I wanted to do with the club, and I was able to bring that vision to life
Mhm.
and leave a legacy. And a lot of what the later iterations of the club have done follow that legacy that I've left behind because a lot of what I did was unprecedented. So when I joined AAA, I had the idea that I was going to do the same thing, but I didn't know how. The thing that I was missing was that vision, right? So I joined blindly, hoping that I would get a similar experience to my high school organization. That was a huge mistake to assume, but I learned a lot from that because just because you see a rainbow that looks similar to a rainbow that you had explored previously, it
Mm.
doesn't mean that when you get to the end of the rainbow, the pot of gold is going to be the same. And it doesn't necessarily
Damn,
mean
son.
that what you get is going to be like what you want. So when you get to that point, you'll think, man, I like a month ago, this is what I really wanted, and I'm finally here, but this isn't what I expected. But that was a really good thing for me though, because I got really, really lucky. For those of you that don't know, I met Dan through AAA's Big Sib Little Sib program, which is the equivalent of like big bro, little bro, brother sister type relationships
Help
in Greek
grow and to
organizations.
help like
But
build up these freshmen and make sure that they kind of go through it as well as just make friends in general.
exactly. So when I came in, I mentioned that in high school I was like super cocky, super arrogant. I was the same way when I came into college, and a lot of people in AAA who are now like some of my closest friends, including Dan, thought I was just a huge like douchebag.
All right, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm gonna give you my point of view from here. So every year we do this general kind of meeting for
like an
people,
introductory meeting.
introductory meeting. Hey, for people who signed up during what's called Quad Day for U of I, which is basically just a huge um, on the quad, which is basically this rectangular shaped field area place, very large for every single organization, Greek organization, fun organization, political, whatever you think of, um, organizations in the middle,
Just
people
think
who
of it as
signed
like
up.
a huge club fair
Right.
outside, but U of I's quad area is huge. It expands.
Hmm.
I don't really know how big it is actually. I've never looked into it, but it's huge. There were like a couple hundred clubs out there.
Right. Now, whoever signed up goes to these general meetings. I was actually I was an officer during that time, which basically means one of the like leaders of the organization.
He was a student leader.
Yeah, student leader. Okay, and first impression that I got of Johnny here was he walked into this general meeting, crew behind him, like 7 people behind him
I was wearing
in his
sunglasses indoors. I was wearing a
sunglasses
black tank top.
indoors. No, it was a white tank top.
Oh, it was white.
It was a white tank top, like uh, what was it? Athletic shorts, uh,
Yeah.
sunglasses indoors, crew behind him. He looked like the douchiest person we met. Think about it. Sunglasses indoors. Instantly, it's like, all right, this guy, whew,
Yeah, and it
trouble,
didn't help that I
trouble.
used my backpack as a pillow and I laid down like this, right in the front. So,
Right in the front. Um, because I was the big sib, little sib kind of officer coordinator person, um, I helped pair people together. So people that I met, people filled out this form, this kind of questionnaire form almost, and we can kind of pair people based on interest, based on live, based on major, all of those things.
and
And
for some reason, of all people, Dan picked me.
you know, it actually wasn't for some reason. Well, from some random reason. It was because I was like, uh, one of my co-coordinator people, Vivian. I was just talking to her, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna take one for the team.
I believe that.
I'm gonna
I'll
take one
believe
for the
it.
team. At the same time, you had a lot of the similar interests that I noticed and saw, so I was like, oh, all right. Well, I mean, he has some of the similar interests. Let's take one for the team. I'll take him along, and we'll see how it goes.
So that's actually the same thing that happened with Lena. So so Dan's one of like the really close friends that I made through AAA, and there are two other very noteworthy individuals that I met, Tony and Lena. So I met Lena through another organization that had a similar pairing system, and she just took me because she was taking one for the team. Straight up, she was like, "Oh, this kid's extra. He signed up late. I guess I'll take him." Um, and Dan and Lena are actually like both two of my closest friends that I still keep up with from AAA. And just in general, I don't keep up with a lot of a lot of people just in general. And then so there was that, and then and Lena was also in AAA, so she had the same impression of me that Dan did. As did this guy I mentioned, Tony, but Tony was seemed to be way more tolerant of it. And
Because you had the
when I
same attitude when you were in high school.
yeah, we found out that we had a lot in common in terms of our attitudes and our looks on the world and our interests. Um, so like Dan was like the big brother I did have because he was my big bro. Tony's like the big brother I never had, and then Lena was like, oh man, Lena and I have so much in common. It's actually insane. But yeah, so when I joined AAA, back to your original question, like why did I join AAA, or looking back on it, was it worth it, things like that. At that time when I met you guys were the people I needed in my life at that time, because this was going to lead up to a series of events that were going to unravel that changed my life. And um I'll get into that in a bit. So going into freshman year, I was very confident. I mentioned I had my friend group, and I felt really good about it. And I was slowly integrating myself to AAA. Like Dan mentioned, he jumped in a lot second semester, but then he also mentioned for me, I slowly kind of like transitioned into AAA. But that transition jumped in commitment and how much time I spent in the organization my sophomore year. So this is when everything went down. Um, so just to sum it up, I'm having like a bit of a crisis because I'm getting pressure from my parents and my academic advisor trying to get me to settle on a major. But then the majors that I was picking from really didn't fit me at all. And then a really good friend of mine was killed in a car accident, and my girlfriend broke up with me. Uh, so all of that stuff happened my sophomore year, and it was really really rough dealing with that. There's actually one night when I like just went for a walk and I was really angry and I was really emotional, but Dan and Lena went looking for me, and they waited for me at my apartment to make sure I came back. And I'm never going to forget that night. They saw that I had a bruised up hand and knuckles because I punched a sign. I was really angry. um they saw that I was like, I looked horrible, but I kept telling them I was fine, but I clearly wasn't fine. They took really good care of me, right? So like that year, I had so much support from that group of AAA people. And it's not just them three, right? There are a lot of other people that I'm not I haven't named, but I owe something to, because they were there for me. That really offered me a lot of experience. And this has nothing to do with the organization itself, man. Um, for some reason, and I still don't believe that they did this, and I don't think that many future AAA exec boards will ever do this. As a sophomore, uh, the AAA leadership board let me plan the biggest event of the year. And that was also a rough process because I was doing a lot of growing up, and a lot of these extenuating circumstances were bleeding into my ability to take care of that. But that year I learned a lot. I learned how to work with a partner who really needed me to pull my own weight. I learned the importance of putting aside your personal affairs when you have responsibilities to do. And these are all things that I learned from just from planning some big dance show, right? It was awesome. That year, Dan was also my mentor. He was overseeing my project, and he was making sure that I was on track. He was making sure I was within a budget. He was making sure I was keeping up my due dates and responsibilities and things like that. Um, so that year was a really pivotal year for me in college in general, just because so much happened and it all hit me at once.
Right.
It was a really rough year. It's probably one of the worst years of my life. Yeah, but
All right.
yeah,
So that was your freshman and sophomore year. Okay.
yeah, basically.
So that pretty much like kind of defined the rest of your college experience in general.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Now, um, I'm gonna take it along here and say you learned a lot through your freshman and sophomore year. Obviously, you probably learned more junior and senior as well as you grew with a part of the organization. What would you say your biggest takeaway from AAA itself was, or just an organization that organization?
You have to be very careful who you trust,
Okay.
like straight up. Um, I don't want to go into too much detail
I mean,
because, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. But it's also because I I want to. I don't hold grudges against people, so it's not like I resent them for anything that's ever happened to me or anything they ever said or done to me. But my junior and senior year of AAA were pretty rough. Um, there were a lot of trust issues and a lot of clashes in terms of leadership styles and personalities that made it difficult to grow and to develop myself in an organization. So, with that being said, I think that that reinforced some things that I learned my freshman and sophomore year in AAA specifically about making sure that I'm careful with who I trust, but that I am capable of taking care of myself if I need it.
that's good.
Um, while with the right people I trust, asking them for help. So that kind of sums it up.
Okay. Now, do you regret being a part of AAA ever?
No.
Okay.
Um, so I want to say that when I came in my freshman year, I knew that I wanted to be president of the organization. And I eventually went on to do that. That was my senior year. But I mentioned that analogy earlier about exploring different rainbows and then getting to end to see the pot of gold, right? That's exactly what happened. What it wasn't what I dreamed for it to have been, and it wasn't as glorious as I hoped it'd be. But I don't regret it at all. I'm definitely glad I joined.
Okay. Now, taking a different step away from AAA itself, um, overall school life itself, um, is there something you would have done separately outside of AAA? Could have rewind time, go back to this.
Yeah, it probably would have been being honest with my professors. Um, I don't want to go too much into detail, but I mean, we could actually make a totally different episode about this.
Mhm.
But I struggled with a lot of health issues in college. That made it very difficult to be academically successful. And what was frustrating is that um, I took a few tests and I kind of just knew it in myself that I was very capable of doing the work that I need to do. It wasn't like there was a deficiency in my capabilities or my intelligence, but uh, there were just other things that made it very difficult to accomplish those tasks. And in the real world, if you can't do something or if you're struggling with something, you ask for help. I'm working at Starbucks now, and one of the biggest compliments that I've gotten from all of my supervisors and managers is that I ask a lot of questions. Even in the moment when they get a little annoyed because they need to remind me of something, they tell me that they're really happy I ask a lot of questions because it means that I care about getting it done right. And had I done that in college, had I sat down and had those conversations with people who, set office hours to make time for me and asked them for help when I really needed it, I think it would have been much less stressful. So I think that's something I would have changed.
Let's take that all into context and say, for everybody else, if you're still in college, make sure you ask for help no matter what it is, even if
Absolutely.
it's um, as little as you think it is, or think it potentially is. It doesn't matter how small or how stupid you think. Ask for help. Um, it'll be better than having it snowball down bigger and bigger until something happens and
Yeah.
you're unable to either stop it or you have to do.
Exactly. No,
Mhm.
exactly. And that's kind of what I had to do too. And the thing is, sometimes people are afraid to ask for help because they're like, "Oh, that other person in my class is going to think I'm a slacker or that other person's going to think I'm stupid." If they really cared about your growth and your well-being as a person, then they won't think those things. And if they do think those things, then you're asking the wrong people. But um yeah, Dan, you hit it right on like the nail right on top of its head. I think that there's way more to gain than to lose, and it'll prevent you from doing more drastic
Mhm.
things later.
Basically, in the end, you're gonna come out a better person,
Yeah, I
even
think
if
that's a
other
good
people
summary.
don't think. Uh,
So then what
just do
about
it.
you then? We talked a lot about like my journey and my growth and
Mhm.
some of the things I had to deal with. Now, just for context, for anyone that doesn't know, I met Dan when I was a freshman, but he was a junior. So when Dan was talking about his transition into AAA his freshman year, we kind of skipped over his sophomore year into his junior year to where he met me. But now I want to give you a chance to like fill in those missing puzzle pieces and sketch out your story. Like tell us what happened, tell us your journey through AAA in school and what you think you took away from that.
Dude, mine is way less tumultuous as yours, I
Hmm.
guess, at least in my opinion. But like I said, freshman year, same thing. First year, I started off with a group of friends in the dorm. Second half, kind of gravitated towards AAA. The reason why is because um, it was a one of the lounges, pretty much, which was in the ISR dorm, the Illinois Street
Illinois Street
Residence.
Residence
Okay,
Hall.
Residence Hall,
Yeah.
ISR. There is a lounge called Wardall, and it was just a bunch of tables, some couches, but this is the primary location where a lot of AAA people hung out. So I got kind of sucked into this because I lived in that dorm. So um, people were cool, the people were nice. I still talk to a lot of the people that continuously stayed in this area. And the biggest thing that they did was they convinced me to apply for an officer position or the student leader position of this organization. And this was my freshman year, and not many people actually do this or want to do this because they that's a bigger responsibility than want to take on
Yeah, it's like
literally
it's a pretty
freshman
big
year.
step. You're 18, 19 years old and you're going into your second year of college and you're
Mhm.
looking for a leadership position. That's a
Yeah,
pretty big step.
and I wasn't even looking for it. It was just like some
Kind of like pushed on you.
semi thrust onto me because the organization needed what's called a sports officer, a sports leader, and they wanted to have anybody else that was either really interested or even semi qualified or as invested into the organization. I think the reason why I've asked this before, but I don't remember why they chose me. But I think it's because I was actually invested in the organization to a point where they could see me continue with the organization. As maybe I just bullshitted some good shit. But in the end, I became the sports officer, sports leader, and throughout that time, I guess the biggest thing I didn't do crap during this time. I've got to say, I think I held like one big event and then some tiny small events that really didn't matter because there were a couple of people that went. And overall, for me, I didn't have the greatest experience with the officer position because I didn't feel like I was being supported as well, and I was bad at asking for help too. Same with similar with you, I was bad at doing that, and um, I I don't think I was as proactive as I could have been in creating a situation that would have been more rewarding.
Hmm.
Guys. So that kind of, I mean, I love the people, and being an officer in an organization will make you a lot of friends. You are staying with these specific people so much of the time, um, and it's a great way. It's a great way to create friendships, bonds, because you are constantly learn more about them. So people who are in college, who aren't in organization, people starting college, join an organization like or something like this.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth noting that, like Dan said, you'll meet a lot of different people, and I think Dan is really easy to talk to guy, so that's why he was able to make a lot of friends. I also know people on the other side of the spectrum in other organizations that I've worked in where they just don't make the friends and they don't develop those relationships, but they do meet them. Uh, so at the very least, it's definitely worth exploring different organizations because, yeah, maybe you put in like 2, 3, 4 months to get to know these people, and it turns out you don't like any of them. but at least you know what you don't like.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important because it's kind of like dating. A lot of people have really high standards before they start dating, but then afterwards they realize that it's okay to like talk to other people and to get to know them and like go on a bunch of first dates or whatever because then you know what you don't like, so you further reinforce what you do like, right? And I mean the same thing can be said about these organizations. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Dan, I think you're 100% right on that.
And one thing that I'll talk about because Johnny started already here is even if you join an organization and you love it and you love the people in it and you love everything they do and everything they are part of, no matter what, join other things as well. Other organizations,
Don't put
or
all your eggs in one basket.
right, don't put all your eggs in one basket because one thing that I learned throughout with AAA and one thing that I regret slightly is not being able to create friendships or at least experience outside of this one organization that I almost
Yeah.
put about 80% of my time in. Well, organizations wise, I put like 80% of my time into this organization and then very tiny pieces into the other one. Really didn't. So, no matter how much you like it, create the bonds, be a part of it, but branch out as well. Um, that led me kind of into my second year where I decided not to be an officer of this organization because I didn't have as great of experience my freshman.
Hmm.
So I felt like I needed to take it back and I wanted to just kind of enjoy, at least in my head, enjoy a year without like responsibility wise, organizationally wise. So school, friends, and gaming. That was still a huge part of it. And a lot of the reasons why I made a lot of friends also is because of talked about this previously. Well, that's why we love gaming, creating that. But yeah, that was previous topic as well. Uh, but overall, freshman year was good. Overall, it was just a good intro to college itself. Uh, other than that, I mean, as I progressed sophomore year, I met a bunch of people. Nothing really interesting happened. All right. Well, another regret is well, not regret, but um, I enjoyed it a lot. I don't even remember my sophomore year. Jesus Christ, that's how bad. That's how uninteresting it was.
Maybe you're just getting old, dude.
Am I getting old? All right.
Maybe you're just getting
No,
old.
no.
Except you're not even that old.
Yeah, I'm not even that old. What are you talking about? I think the biggest thing for me in sophomore year was I kind of just get easy, kind of relaxed almost. So not having that responsibility well and being kind of go through AAA as a member, just kind of making friends, being part of the organization itself, and being not having the responsibility of having to do everything, but it's creating the solid foundation of friendship. Well,
Hmm.
sticking it out with the group, the organizations, and everything. Like I said earlier, one biggest regret is not branching out. This is where I started losing touch with a lot of other friends as well. I started getting more invested in one.
Hmm.
And another thing for everybody is make sure you go to the gym and utilize all of your resources as well, uh, because you will miss them once you.
It's
Other,
definitely really easy to take for granted everything that's on campus.
yeah,
It's really easy.
very much so. Um, I lived in the dorm again, and um, the
In your
food,
sophomore year, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the food itself, is Jesus. Oh my gosh, too much. Slow down on your intake of dorm food. Go to the gym, do the things you love, play sports, go outside, do things like that. So, um, I mean, this is one of I forgot. This is the year that I met my girlfriend.
Yep. I was waiting for this part of the story.
um, yeah, no. Throughout my freshman, as I was younger, I was a very naive person, very sheltered. I think, at least in my opinion, I kind of grew out of that. I was a very big romantic when I was previously before.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh, before everything. I think sophomore year. I used. Oh my god! I cringe at the fact when I say this. But I used to do things like post poem statuses or something during Valentine's Day, and I did this like 2 week long everyday post something. Um, oh god.
We all had our weird, awkward moments, dude. It's all good.
But yeah, I learned a lot in college about relationships and branching out in people. For sophomore year, that was during my awkward phase, I guess. And I was lucky enough to woo, if you can consider that, woo a girl. And yeah, sophomore year, I guess that was the biggest. One thing that I guess I learned here is don't. You'll find somebody eventually, no matter who it is. You'll find somebody eventually
Says the
during
guy
college.
with a girlfriend. Just saying.
Everybody it has the opportunities to find somebody. But all I'd say is don't focus everything on finding a girl
Definitely
or
not.
finding a person or finding a that kills people. And you just spend so much time on it, so much thought and everything. Take a step back and stop being a child up. So at that point, that's when I realized that. Probably didn't realize it until after, but yeah, that's one takeaway from that story.
Hmm.
Sophomore year, like I said, pretty uneventful in general. Um,
Yeah. What do you think was something that so at the time that I met you, like junior year onward, you were already pretty established with your girlfriend, and then this is when you took on greater roles in AAA, and then you were also getting into like esports related stuff. Were there things that you wish that you explored at the time, or were you pretty happy with everything that you did explore? Um, how would you look back on your junior senior year?
um, I wish I pushed more towards things I enjoyed, as in, at least found things, leadership opportunities that I. Ooh, actually, let me take a. Or at least I wish I found opportunities and wasn't if afraid to explore things like the esports type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, finding certain jobs or internships or things like that where you were, don't be afraid to kind of push forward for things that you enjoy. So, one big thing is the gaming industry where I really liked if I continuously tried or put some more effort into working towards that. That
Mm-hmm.
would have been something that I definitely. But overall, yeah, I got more integrated into Asian American, being an officer and like an executive board member as well. Part of so being that way, seemed like this station sucked up too well, as well as all the other small little school, like school,
Like school.
like school.
Or
Um,
like playing a lot of League.
we don't need to talk about that, right? No.
It's okay. That was me too.
No, yeah. I spent way too much time playing. I still do, but definitely should have lessened it. Uh, yeah. I just wished I branched out a little bit more and found things I enjoy. Um, kind of had the initiative to push through with that. I had a lot of ideas and thoughts in my head that I just never acted upon. That's something that just don't be afraid to do things that
Hmm.
and try to find ways to create an opportunity for things that you do enjoy.
I think that that's really difficult for people to do when they have peer pressure hanging over them or they're just like super integrated into
Mhm.
whatever organization they're a part of. But I completely agree. It's definitely worth taking a risk and going to do something different. I think for me, that's why I found staying a fifth year to be extremely valuable because I like Dan said, if I graduated after my fourth year, I would have had a lot of similar feelings that he did about not having explored other organizations or not having done everything I wanted to do in terms of exploring my hobbies and taking them further. My senior year, I spent um, at a consulting firm, a student-run consulting firm at U of I, which is a lot of fun. It was very eye-opening. My senior year, or my fifth year rather, I was a vice president and then later the president of the premier esports organization on campus. It was really cool being able to do all those different things. So like, even though staying a fifth year may not be the best option for everybody, and it may not necessarily be the best option, it was really good for me, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to pursue those things. So really thankful for that.
Overall, I think just explore and don't worry about what other people think. If they really cared, they wouldn't saying something like they
And
matter. They don't care if they don't matter.
and the thing is, it's really easy to feel like other people are gonna care or like talk shit about you, and it really doesn't matter because your time in college is extremely valuable, and you should be very selfish with it. Um, and a lot of people forget that they just worry way too much about what other people think and how other people see them, when it's really important to do your own thing and own it. Um, it's something that heavily affected my performance as a leader in AAA, and I wish I realized sooner so I could have done more for not only myself but the members I was serving. That was something that really stuck out with me. So yeah, like Dan's got a really good point. Most people that you think care or like will talk shit, they're probably busy thinking about themselves and anyway, and they probably don't matter. Uh, and if they really do give you like that much of a hard time for pursuing something that you feel like is fun, then that's fine. You don't really need them in your life as often or as much as you probably thought you did.
And overall, uh, talking all about these organizations and fun and things like that, school is the most important. Focus on everything you're doing at school first, and then do all of this in your other time. Yeah, overall, college was fun. Great place to make friends, learn, and grow as a person. So don't be afraid to take opportunities. Don't be afraid to branch out. Be afraid to kind of explore yourself and every and for kind of interests, hobbies, kind of what other people.
Absolutely.
Those are the big takeaways.
Yeah. No, you got them all.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
you said ask for help, right?
ask for help.
Yeah,
Yes, there you
please,
go.
for the love of God, just
Ask for
ask
help.
for help. even the worst thing that they could do is say no, and that just means that you can ask someone else for help. Just please, just
There you go.
super valuable. But
Um, but
yeah.
now that we've all those lessons taken care of, that'll wrap up our talk for today. Thank you guys for joining us on our adventure through our college experience, as well as hope you take something away from it, even if it's just one small little thing like, you know, play League of Legends. um, uh, but yeah, do the same things as always. Leave us some feedback. Leave us some comment on the video. Um,
And with this college stuff, if any of you guys are like at the age where you're entering college or you're going through it, or you just stumble upon this, randomly while you're still in college and you want to talk about any of it, honestly, you could probably just message any one of us or like comment and like we'd be more than glad to talk to you because we
hit
did
us up.
gloss over a lot of a wide variety of topics. So
Oh
yeah, man,
yeah, we glossed over a lot of things. We could have gone way further, but this
absolutely,
video
yeah.
is getting way long too long. So definitely, like Johnny said, hit us up, Twitter, DM, comment into the YouTube channel. Might have a conversation somehow, some way. So let us know. And said, like the video, like it, subscribe to the video if you like our content. Leave a comment, leave feedback, leave your opinion, leave your thoughts, whatever you want to leave, just leave it. um, and my name is Dan.
And
To
I'm
my
Johnny.
left, Johnny. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week for whatever we got planned.
I'll see you guys later.
See you guys later.